Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a closer look into the group stages for the upcoming Summer Euros. We're also going to compare them to the 2017 group stages and how they ended up looking like, and who we think are the groups to keep an eye on once the competition begins, here on She Scores Bangers. Just a quick heads up before we get going with the video, the squads have not been announced just yet, or at least at the time of the recording of this video. They usually get announced about 6 weeks before the competition begins, so we're expecting them to be announced possibly the second week going into July. Once the squads have been announced and the players have been confirmed to be participating, we're going to be doing another preview of who we think is going to go the furthest in the competition. Quickly tracking back to the Euros 2017, we saw Netherlands capture their first ever Euros competition, which was hosted by them. The Dutch beat Sweden 2-0 in the quarterfinals, only moving on to face England, and also beat them 3-0 in the semis to advance to the finals, to face Denmark, who also had to beat Spain in the quarterfinals as well as Austria in the semifinals. The final between Holland and Denmark was an extremely competitive and intense one. This saw 6 goals go in, 4 of which was for the hosting team. If we are to have a closer look at Group A over here, we have England, Norway, Austria, as well as Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland was not featured in the 2017 Euros competition, however, this time in the playoffs they were able to beat Ukraine twice and narrowly make it through. With that being said, I don't think they're going to have much success. I think they still lack a lot of talent, a lot of quality. It's quite a new federation in the sense of really making it into top European football. Looking at their most recent matches, they have lost the last 3 and drew the 4th one against Switzerland. I think the group that they ended with has a little bit too much quality. They also have a lot more experience in the Euros. All 3 of the other teams have consistently shown up and able to compete in the Euros. England is the hosting country. They're also newly working with Sarina Wiegman, who won the Euros with the Netherlands last time. They're undefeated under her. They haven't lost a single game since she's been in charge. She has looked like she's revolutionized the squad completely, and I don't think it's going to be a shocker to say that England is going to make it through, and I possibly think they're going to make it at the top of this group for this one. I think that second spot is going to be very, very competitive between Austria and Norway. Last Euros, Austria actually ended up first in their group ahead of France and was knocked out by Denmark throughout penalties in the quarterfinals. Norway, on the other hand, didn't have much of a chance. They lost all 3 games. They ended last in their group and just did not perform well at all even. However, since then, we do know that the Ballon d'Or winner Ada Hegerberg has returned to the national squad. A lot of the young talent that they had in 2017 has grown so much of their potential. This time around, you obviously have the likes of Julia Blackstad, Ingrid Boerisa, Frida Maanum, Gora Ryan, who's had an absolute season with the Blues, Graham Hansen. And I think that much quality is going to overwhelm the Austrian squad. And so the 2 teams that we think are going to go through from Group A are England as well as Norway. Moving on to Group B, which I think is going to be the most competitive and the one to keep an eye on. We have Spain, Denmark, Germany, as well as Finland. This marks Finland's return back into the Euros competition, as they also missed out on it last time. Now, what's super fun about the 3 remaining teams, Spain, Germany, and Denmark, is that all 3 of them were able to make it through the group stages last time, with consideration that neither of them were in the same group. Both Denmark and Spain finished second in their group, whilst Germany was able to finish first ahead of Sweden. Going into the competition, odds actually show that Spain are the favorites to win it, especially with the rise of a lot of their players who've been playing over in Spain and Barcelona. Many of them have been able to get collective trophies as well as individual trophies, most notably being Alexia Putellas winning the Ballon d'Or this year. I'm going to have to edge it to them that they're definitely going to make it through. So for now, we're going to put them in the first spot of their group. However, if we are to look at the 2017 Euros, they actually only made it through by goal difference and only having 3 points. Now, I know this sounds extremely bizarre, but let's have a closer look at Group D. England was able to win all 3 of their matches, collecting 9 points, whereas Spain, Scotland, and Portugal only won 1 game each, meaning that they all ended with 3 points. And it had to go over to goal difference, where Spain had conceded the least amount of goals. Scotland actually had suffered a 6-0 loss against England through one of those games, so they didn't really have much of a chance to make it through. And for that second spot, I think it's going to be very, very tight and might even go down to goal difference between Denmark and Germany. Now, Denmark obviously was one of the finalists against the Netherlands, but they had to beat Germany in the quarterfinals to move over to the semifinals. Going into the game, I think a lot of people did favor Germany, considering they were the reigning champions from the previous European Championship. but Denmark had a little bit too much grit and was able to really pull through in the penalties. With that being said, I think people forget that Germany has won it 8 times and has done so consecutively. Yes, 8 times consecutively. They have a lot of quality in their squad in terms of having a fair amount of veterans as well as new upcoming talent and youth coming through. So if you are to narrow it down between the two teams, I think Germany is going to be able to just sneak into that second spot ahead of Denmark, but I think it's going to go down the wire between these two. Moving over to Group C, we have the reigning champions Netherlands, Sweden, Switzerland, as well as Portugal. Portugal actually found themselves in this spot after the removal of the Russian national team. Portugal's most notable win has been against Norway earlier in February of this year, and so I think Portugal is just happy to be featured there, to be present, catch some experience, but I don't think they're going to have much success, and I would probably place them at the end of the table. Switzerland, I feel like, is a team that has disappointed quite frequently. They definitely have a handful of star players like Anna Maria, Ramona Bushman, Leah Wolty, Malin Gutt, as well as Alicia Lehmann. But looking at the 2 other squads that are remaining in this group, it's definitely going to be a hard challenge. And so for me, they'd probably end up in the 3rd spot. The Netherlands is also working with new coach Mark Parsons after the departure of Serena Wigman to go coach the English team. And so their style of play has been quite different than what we're used to seeing, and certainly very different than how they played last Euros. But that squad has so much depth, so much experience, so much quality that it's going to be a no-brainer that they definitely go through. Sweden obviously is a very, very strong team and has been for quite some time. The attacking play that they possess, as well as the amount of pressure they're able to pour on other teams, is quite remarkable. And I don't think they're going to have trouble beating either Switzerland or Portugal. And so for Group C, it's going to have to be the Netherlands and Sweden going through. And finally, Group D has France, Italy, Belgium, as well as Iceland. The only team in this group that was able to make it out of their group stages in 2017 is France, who also had Iceland in their group. Looking at Belgium's record for the past few years, they don't really have any notable wins against any challenging teams. They're facing the likes of Albania, Kosovo, Armenia, as well as Slovakia, and haven't really had a hard test in quite some time. Whereas Iceland, on the other hand, has had quite narrow losses to the Netherlands, Italy, as well as the United States. They've managed to beat Japan and Republic of Ireland twice last year. Looking at the squad they've been sticking with for the past few years, it's quite stable, and so a lot of the players that they usually go with have a lot of international caps under their names. I feel like the likes of Dagny Bryansdotter, as well as Jane Dynsdotter, and probably many other Jonsdotters in their team are probably going to cause some issues for Italy and Belgium, but I don't think they'll be able to edge it into the 2nd slot. So for the bottom 2, we're going to place Iceland, followed by Belgium. Italy also ended last in their group in the 2017 Euros, but since then have made great improvements. They beat the Netherlands in an international friendly last year. They also grabbed wins against Denmark, Norway, and Switzerland most recently. And they're probably going to be able to grab at least 4 points from their 2 games against Iceland and Belgium, which I think will be able to secure them their 2nd spot in that group. Moving on to the French team, I think there's a lot you can say about the French team. I think they actually got quite lucky with this group. Had they been in a group with England or Norway or Germany or Spain or even Netherlands, they probably would have maybe found some trouble. But for this one, I think they'll comfortably be able to get 1st place. With that being said, though, in the past few competitions, France has underachieved and had quite the chaos and the drama come out of their locker room frequently, and this has been a trend since the current manager took over, Corinne. I think as good as the French team is, they would do so much better without her. She has had her fair share of arguments with Amandine Henry, who she has left out of multiple important squads. She also pointed the finger and blamed Les Sommer for some of the World Cup losses. She has humiliated Wendy Renard online. And to combat that, she's chosen players who are far from being at the level of where the French team needs to be. I'm sure we're going to have to talk about this a little bit more once the squad is announced and once we have a clearer picture of which players are going to be involved. But I do think as long as she's involved, the French team is never going to be able to succeed under her. Her toxic and extremely controlling mindset has been reflected on the field. The chemistry between the players has been greatly shattered. And whilst I do think they'll be able to make it out of the group stages purely because of the talent that they have, they're likely going to crash pretty badly in the quarterfinals. This concludes who we think is going to come out of the group stages. So just to quickly recap, out of Group A, it's going to be England and Norway, followed by Germany and Spain, as well as Netherlands, Sweden, and then lastly, France and Italy. If you guys feel like there's teams that we misrepresented or overrepresented, do let us know down in the comment section below. As always, make sure you follow us here on YouTube as well as on Twitter to stay updated and to continue enjoying the beautiful game. I will see you later.